Hello.
Sonja Grace, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, I think you are such a fascinating guest, especially for the conversation that we just had
Mhm.
before, even with Royce and Mona Sabani. It's great to have a healer, another author, um, and some a mystic as well.
Mhm.
So many titles and
Right.
great things. So yeah, I was just wondering if you could start with just like a very brief introduction of your work and of your background.
Sure. Sure. Most importantly, I was born this way, which made my childhood really interesting. I could see and
Ah.
can see, feel, hear, taste, smell, everything in the unseen world. So I see all of it, from the highest angels and demigods all the way down to the smarmiest, demons and entities. I clear that stuff from people all day long. I have people who call me and work with me from all over the world as a healer. I'm like an energy surgeon. I go in and repair hearts and livers and spleens. I've been known to do triple bypass surgeries. It's
Wow.
all done energetically. I was trained 43 years ago, old school. Some of my teachers were some of the best healers of our time. And I have practiced working with clients now for, as I said, 43 years. And I find that time and space does not exist for me the way that it does for most people. I'm
Mm,
able to put myself in front of a client, say in Singapore. I often will smell the smells of the house or the environment, or I'll feel the air. It's real muggy, and it's like I get all sensory systems on, and I'll work on that person just like they're right there in front of me. And that's my daily life. I have 8 to 12 clients a day. I'm booked out often 6 months ahead, and I have a great respect for all modalities of healing. Oftentimes, when I
mm,
work with someone, I'll tell them, this is what I see, this is what I worked on. Now I want you to go get a CT scan. Now I want you to,
mm.
go see your oncologist. I work on cancers all day long. I mean, there's just such a huge increase in cancer right now. It's insane. And I offer natural solutions. I work with an herbalist. I tell people go get acupuncture, go get visceral
Mm.
manipulation therapy. I mean, I'm about the collective and all of us working together, because what I do energetically is going to help the surgeon who's then taking out the tumor. And
Mm.
my example of that is, I had a client years ago who had a breast tumor, and it was, I worked on it and energetically removed it. And then she went in for her surgery, and what was should have taken like an hour and a half, it took 40 minutes. And the surgeon said to my client, I don't know what happened. That's normally an hour and a half surgery, and it was done in 40 minutes. And she was amazed. And I thought, well, this is the concert of what we need to be doing. I have cardiologists, oncologists, virologists, doctors, naturopaths as clients, and chiropractors. I mean, I have the whole medical community who comes to me. And I have a cardiologist in New York who refers people to me. It's wonderful when Western medicine can embrace all these other modalities, because what
Mhm.
Western medicine does is it isolates. It says, oh, this is a problem with your endocrine system. You need to see an endocrinologist. But unlike what's going on in Chinese medicine, they're not looking at all the systems. They're not looking at oh, you're yin deficient in your kidneys and you need, this and these herbs. And there's so much out there that when we work in concert, it's a beautiful thing.
Mm. Yeah, it's fascinating. And you're mentioning that you do this like spirit traveling. Is that how you heal other people? You like go
Yeah,
where
well, let's talk about spirit traveling because I think that's
Sure,
a
yeah.
really good basis to understand how I work on people on distance. So, first of
Right.
all, time and space is not for me what it is for most people. I don't experience it the same way. And to back that story up, as a child, because I was so on and so out there, my mom put me in ballet class when I was 5 years old. I trained as a classical ballerina. I performed professionally for 15 years. I was with the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. I really had a strong grounding of these abilities through dance. And when
Oh.
you're a dancer and somebody says, you've got 8 counts of music and I want Shanae turns across the floor, you're thinking about how many Shanae turns can I get into 8 counts? And there is a moment in that process where time and space starts to look different and feel different. So I got really good training just in my own physical
Mm.
body of learning about time and space. So spirit traveling came later in my career, I'd say maybe 25 years ago. And I've been teaching meditation all this time. I have been meditating since I began my work. And I went into meditation and my body completely dissolved, like little particles of sand. It just became a part of everything. And I happened to be outside. So it just went into nature. It was gone. And my guides, who are high angelic beings, they're angels, they took me by the hand and we went up. We went up and up and up and up and up. And we went to what I learned was the center of the universe.
Mm.
And in that place, we met these beings that are called the Savrok. They're the ant people. My Hopi culture talks about the ant people. Various really old stories in the world understand this ancient race of beings, the ant people, are the ones that have helped humanity throughout the centuries during times of flooding and all kinds of cataclysmic events, taking people underground, creating tunnels underground for people to survive. So there I was in the center of the universe, and the ant people were there. And I'm like, wow, what is this? I mean, you guys are here. How cool is that? Because I'd already met them. How cool is that? So they told me to stand in this space. It was kind of like this milky white substance. And I stepped into this space, and all of a sudden it was like this wave of bliss. I mean, I felt so blissed out. I didn't ever want to leave it. I mean, I was like, okay, this is it. I want to be here. And then all of a sudden I heard my guide saying, it's time to go. And it was like, no. And I had to step out of it and we came back. Well, where I was during this was I was on a camping trip with my husband.
Mm.
And I told him I was going to do a 20-minute meditation and then we would go make dinner. He was still sitting there watching, keeping, kind of keeping watch on me. It was dark out and it was 3 hours later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So from that point, I began to spirit travel. And what my guides do is they take me by the hand. I don't go anywhere without them. My body dissolves in my meditation. I have no physical form, and we go up and we go back in time. I've been back as
Mm.
far as 250,000 BC. I have been off planet. I have seen many, many different time periods of humanity. And in my healing work, it is a form of spirit traveling in that it's kind of an automatic thing for me now, but I am sort of grounded in a meditative state, and I'm boom, like that, right in front of that person. Yeah.
Mm,
I
I
know it's, for
see.
your listeners, this might be really hard to accept, but as we know in history, there have been unusual and exceptional people. And as far as women mystics go, most of them were burned at the stake or they were killed because women weren't meant to have that much power. Ha ha. and and or they were of, the Catholic faith, and they died a martyr, or they were,
Mm,
they had sainthood after they died, whatever. It's like, we don't readily accept somebody like me and my abilities because we have this history of suppressing women and suppressing someone who's so radically different, and in my experience, than most people. And I've
y-
said this many times, if I was a man telling these stories and talking about this, I'd be sitting with Deepak Chopra having some conversation about mysticism, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Hmm.
It makes me think of how many people, like men and female, have these experiences, and because there's not that many people talking about them, they'll just be like, "Oh, that was I need to drink some water. My iron is low, or something." Like they won't accept these experiences. Maybe.
Well, all of what you're saying is based on karma, okay? So here's the connection. We're all spiritual beings. There is no separation between us and
Mm,
God, no separation. But we believe, because when we incarnate, infinite souls going into a physical form, mom's belly, the womb, we immediately have the wounding that we're separate from God, we're separate from source. So everybody's dealing with that wounding. Everybody through their lifetime is in one way or another trying to get back to, I know I'm connected. No, I don't believe I'm connected. And in that process, we have our karma. And our karma overlays all that we inherit from mom and dad, which is we imprint their psychology from the time we're in the womb until 3 years old. We imprint all of mom and dad, and our karma overlays that. Karma is unresolved emotional wounds. So you've got abandonment, betrayal, shame, guilt, fear, resentment. You have all these pieces, threads from past lives that are now playing in concert in this lifetime. So for me, and this is my karma, what I'm working through as a healer is my karma. Would I go to the guy who's bagging my groceries in the grocery store and say, I need brain surgery and I want you to do it? No, because that's not his karma. He's not a brain surgeon. He's bagging groceries. That's an important job to me. I think the guy who's bagging my groceries or the person who's making my latte are just as important as the people who are doing brain surgery or someone like me who's doing healing. But
hmm
to understand that we don't all have the same path and we don't all have the same abilities is sort of the human challenge, because we get ego involved, and now suddenly everybody thinks, oh, I'm psychic, I'm a healer, I'm a shaman, I'm a this, I'm a that. And it's like, if it's not your path, if it's not your karma, it's like trying to become an actress or trying to become a,
hmm
an adventurer, someone who's out there in the field doing research. It may not work for you because you have to really get at, what's my karma? What are the wounds that I'm dealing with that's shaping my life right now?
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and
most people don't want to look at the wounds. Most people don't want to deal with the fact that they came from a dysfunctional family. There was alcoholism or some kind of ism. There was some
right.
kind of, dysfunction. Most people want, it's like la 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 la. They want to believe that everything is roses, and it can be if we deal with our stuff.
Deal with our stuff. That makes sense. Yeah, and I'm thinking a little bit of like the condition of PTSD and like soldiers who come home from
Yep,
war. And like
yep,
these kids have their parents who have PTSD, and then the parents don't go get help because one of the symptoms of PTSD is that you don't like go get help. So
that's
the
right.
kid learns these things, um
Yes.
and it's
My
all like a
my
side effect from war kind of bleeding through.
my father came home from Korea, the Korean War, and he had PTSD really bad, but it was not diagnosed in those days.
Mm.
Nobody knew. Everybody just put on a good face. I went to war. I'm back. It's time to get going.
Yeah, I'm just
And
gonna
no, and
kill a
it and
bunch of people.
it's so interesting how that evolves and manifests for people. Even soldiers that I've worked with who have and are conscious they have PTSD, most of them have had some kind of energetic, I'm going to call it like black magic, mojo, some kind of something that was put on them in the country of origin that they were in. For example, these guys who served in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, those people practice some heavy, heavy stuff. And they, forgive me for the people, but they hated the American soldiers who were there. And a lot of them got black magic put on them and it messed them up. And
Wow.
it messed them up, even adding more to the war and the horrors that those men and women saw. So I go in and clear that stuff out. In fact, I was working with a guy
Mm.
who was in the Vietnam War, and it was so incredible. I was clearing him and in his field working on a particular layer of the field, and I saw this little boy, and I said, you've got this little boy in your field, and I'm not sure why. He's just this little Vietnamese boy. And he started crying. And it makes me cry. And he said, I've never let that story go, that that little boy died in front of me. And he goes,
Mm.
I just have never been able to get over it. So we cleared it. His heart completely, like he lifted up. It was so cool. And that little boy was so happy to be released and go to God and all of those things that happen when we're ghosts stuck somewhere, right?
Mm.
Yeah, I know. I'm bringing up a whole lot of stuff that
Yeah.
we, we,
Oh,
we could talk for hours.
yeah. I mean, I really do like that concept of in between states of being very
Yeah.
like that's where the karma, that's where you kind of choose the karma, right? In that
Mhm.
space, maybe.
No, the karma is what happens to us. So I'll give you an example. Okay. You came through at the end of Atlantis around no, about 12,800. You actually have, and I'm getting this right now, you have a lifetime where you experienced Atlantis before it fell. And
Oh,
Atlantis
wow.
fell around 12,800 BC. You were there in the fall of Atlantis, and
Oh,
you
wow.
you agreed after that lifetime to become a part of this phase of humanity, which started around 10,000 BC, and it's coming to an end. We are actually in the throes of this phase of humanity coming to an end. So the reason that you came through is so that you could help people, move people in ways that will shift them to a higher thinking. And it's
Mm.
very mathematical for you. You were like a scientist when you came through to
Mm.
Atlantis, because scientifically, mathematically, you understood through numbers how to move people in a new direction. Uh, I don't know what that means. Maybe you do. But the point is you're here now, and you're really picking up that thread of where you were at the end of Atlantis. You're like on that mission. That's why you have this podcast. That's why you're doing all the research and studying that you're doing. So with that said, many of us will not come back to Earth. This is our last lifetime. We have had tons of lifetimes tons of karma. And when you agreed, okay, I'm going to do this next phase of humanity, remember, you're an infinite soul having a human experience. So part of that agreement is I will incur karma. I will work through that karma so that I can help to evolve the human race. Because the human race is very young. We're only about 4 years old as a species. That's why
Wow.
aliens come to Earth and they're so much more advanced than us. They've been here for millions of years and billions of years. I'll correct that. And we're children. We're children. And we act like children. We actually act like 4-year-olds. We do. We do. In matters of the planet and taking care of this planet and
Mm.
recognizing, and this is probably the most important thing I will say to you in the show, we are tethered to her, to the goddess, to the earth. We're tethered to her, meaning she's alive for billions of years, but like us, her body survives longer than our bodies. Her body is round, it's mostly water, but she's got a body. And when that body is done, she will move on, just like our souls do, to another planet that's very Earth-like. And as souls, we will all go and incarnate again
Oh,
with her.
wow.
So we are tethered to her. That's why,
Oh.
yeah, I know. That's why taking care of this planet is so important. I can't say that enough. And I don't mean, what do I mean by that? I mean, talk to her. Go outside, sit on a
Mm.
rock and have a conversation with her, with the goddess of this earth, because it's been said, but she's like your mother and she needs to hear from you. And everything that
Mm.
she creates on earth, all the plants and animals and all life on earth is working in concert to support her.
Wow.
I know.
I can't help but think kind of like um this it's like super powerful, right? It's like it feels like how can we hurt something that's so powerful and what happens if we don't hurt it? What happens if like well, I guess the earth will eventually get swallowed by the sun and
Mhm.
different ways that the earth could just naturally disappear as well, but um
But if we're too harmful, she might shake us off like fleas too,
mm,
you know? And the earth has her cycles. Every so many thousands of years, the poles shift. So many thousands of years, there's earthquakes and land masses move. She has her cycles just like we do, just like
mm,
plant life has cycles. And all of it is evolving around birth, life, and death. And that cycle is what we are on living on the planet. And what's amazing to me is comets and asteroids are like her guardians. These guys go zipping by to check out how she's doing. And if something's really out of whack, they'll impact Earth to disrupt that harm that's being done to her. It's not to harm her, it's to stop life on Earth from doing what it's doing. And this is what happened at the end of Atlantis is there were comets that hit the Earth. And it wasn't an immediate boom, life is over. It was a progression of things. And we don't realize that, things happen over time. It's not a sudden event. And believe me, she is tied to us. She loves us. She wants us to thrive and to be good and healthy and all those things. But we're like a 2-year-old having a tantrum, beating on
mm,
mom, going, I want to tell scream, you know, and and
yeah.
and we don't realize that's what we're doing. And it's like, God, if we could just collectively wake up to realize, we got to take care of her. It's not about us. It's
Right.
not about us, but we make everything about us. I mean, I just got back from Paris, and I can't tell you how many people standing in the plaza of the Louvre were doing this. You know, everybody was taking selfies. Nobody was looking around at what was going
And they're
on.
never gonna look at those selfies, I promise you.
No, and I'm like, oh, people. Yeah, yeah.
Like it's weird, like almost as if they're looking at it on their phone, it's better than looking at it in person
And I
somehow.
saw that all through Paris. There was
Mm.
rarely a person who wasn't head down looking at their phone. You know,
Mm.
we miss so much. We miss so much. There are things going on this planet right in front of our eyes, but our eyes have been dumbed down. They've been anesthetized to seeing certain things, to really using our eyes to see through the forest and what is there. We
Mm.
don't look. We don't. So there's my suggestion to your viewers. Look, use your eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, do you think that these um like you say that you had to have like a interesting relationship between time and space and the infinite or eternal. And to me, I think about all of these reincarnations and past lives and all of this. And if all of this is like within time space, I wonder, is all of this happening like all at once? Like, is our soul in another place being like, I want to go take reincarnation and come back, and it's like a blink, like it happens in a blink for the soul, but for us, it feels like a whole life.
That's a
Is
great question. Great question. Okay, so when the Mayan calendar ended in 2010, that was the end of the fourth dimension, us being in the fourth dimension.
mm,
As a species, we've only known the fourth dimension. Yeah, we all talk about we live in a 3D world. I get that. But as a whole, we had been in the fourth dimension through our whole time of being here. And so the fifth dimension, now that we're in the fifth dimension, everything's changed. And when it first started, a lot of people reported neck pain and pain in their spine and their backs and weird physical things. People were reporting, like, wow, I had 2 hours to get to where I was going. I got there in an hour. Weird time space things. A lot more UFO sightings, a lot more
mm,
aliens coming through to Earth, a lot of activity. Okay, so here's the download on the fifth dimension. It's a much higher frequency. It's
mm,
got a completely different energy that we as humans have to raise our frequency to match. If we don't, we're feeling kind of like we're being left behind. How come that didn't work? I'm not feeling with it. Like, I don't understand how that works. We're kind of behind, really.
mm,
And we have to raise our frequency, which is why meditation is so important, because that's how you keep your vibe high. That's how you match and meet this fifth dimensional energy. So within each dimension, there's all kinds of things going on. So imagine in your mind the fifth dimension, and there's sort of this web, this incredible web that's kind of like movable. And in that web are different timelines that are going on. Okay. Along with different timelines, there's what's called realms. And realms are energies that move sort of from, they move up to down, dimensions move side to side. It's really complicated, so I don't expect you guys to get this, but there
mhm,
is a sort of mathematical way of looking at it, that within whatever dimension you're in, you are still experiencing multiple timelines, and you're experiencing
mhm,
different energies of realms, but not necessarily different dimensions. You have access to different dimensions more in the fifth. So a lot of aliens coming from the sixth and the seventh dimensions are able to traverse into the
Oh,
fifth.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, it's complicated, but I do feel that we have things going on at the same time. That,
Right.
you know, your lifetime in the 1200s in the Andes was something that is still actively going on, but your consciousness is here present with your body now.
Right. Yes. And um do you experience can we experience like multiple of these dimensions at once?
You
Can
know
we train
what?
ourselves?
But I have something that I do once a month called the Meditation Peace Project. And people can sign up on my website, but I take everybody through my grounding meditation, which is kind of the the very basis of all of the work that I do, whether it's doing deep processing work or it's, you know, taking you back into your past lives, whatever. My grounding meditation is like the rock of how I teach. And I take everyone into meditation, and oftentimes I have the ability, and my guides do this with me, where I move people into other dimensions. And we have sat in the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, even the ninth dimension. And people are all over the world attending this meditation because we're on Zoom, right? They
Yeah.
feel it. Everybody feels it. No
Mm.
joke. Everybody feels that shift when we move. And a lot of times when we're in a higher dimension, it's hard to come back. Like you come out of the meditation and I see everybody on camera kind of going, okay, wait, where am I? So
Right. Let's go back
yeah,
to this
so you
dimension.
can move into different dimensions. I don't recommend you do it on your own. And now we go into a whole nother thing, and that is in my industry, because people think we're all the same and we can all do the same things. A lot of people get themselves into trouble and they run
Mm.
into aliens, they run into entities, they've got a demon in their in stuck in their
Right.
body. They don't understand how to do this. And I always tell people to have a teacher, a guide, someone who can help you. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems
Find
so
someone who
in,
knows.
yeah, that seems so important, almost like necessary. Do you have any recommendations on how people can find a specific teacher or guide? I mean,
Yes.
obviously you are a fantastic one, but
SonjaGrace.com. That's my suggestion. I find, I mean, and this sounds egotistical, and it's not. This
Hmm.
is 43 years of being in the trenches with people who are suffering, people dealing with cancer and illness and disease. I have found maybe two people in my life who have an awareness and authenticity and integrity of the level that I feel is needed to be doing this kind of work. You
Hmm.
know, I've dedicated my life to being in service to source, to God. And I have not I have not drank or drugged in 43 years. I keep my filters clear. I don't do pharmaceutical medicines. You know, it's like I'm really focused on being as authentic and connected as I can be to help my clients and to help people in general. So I don't feel there is a lot of authenticity out
Hmm.
there. And I mean no offense to people who practice, different modalities, but I talk to a lot of healers. They call me for help and they're like, well, I got really high last night and then I had a person I worked on and I think there's something on me. There's just no understanding of how intense that is, that you're
Hmm.
working on someone and the unseen world is getting in because you lowered your shields because you decided to smoke pot.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, and it's I'm thinking about this huge separation between the um kind of like the the separation between the like past humanities who have understood these medicines, understood these cannabis plants, and used them for fasting and completely different reasons than we do.
Yeah.
And it's like, when did that shift happen? Was it in Atlantis? Was, because it seemed like people had a use for these kind of things. And then like they had teachers, they could understand time, space, and eternity. And then like the West or something happened, and now we are all like naked or something, figuring it out for
Right.
ourselves.
Well, it was the industrial age. The industrial age is
Mm,
what really took us away from earth medicine, because now we had cool things that did it for us, or machines
um,
that created whatever. We were no longer plowing the fields ourselves with our horse and our plow. I mean, we became industrialized, and it took us away from earth medicine. I mean, my native culture, I'm adopted on the Hopi reservation. I have Choctaw and Cherokee blood. I'm half Norwegian. I've met all the Norse gods. I did an incredible
wow.
oracle called Odin in the Nine Realms that talks about the Norse gods. And I feel like, I mean, when I go out to Hopi with my husband, who's full-blooded Hopi, there is a culture that still practices all their ceremonies. Everything is still happening as it was thousands of years ago. And for that, there's such a humility of understanding that you can't put on a ceremony without all of these people who, this group holds this knowledge, this group holds this knowledge, and you can't put it on unless everybody comes together. We don't think like that in white society anymore. General populace, we don't think like that.
Hmm.
And native culture is still very dialed into earth medicine. Indigenous people in South America, all over the world, are dialed into earth medicine in a way that I said white culture, many cultures, really, many cultures have disconnected from. And I feel very passionate about my Norwegian heritage, because I know when I've gone to Norway, when I've spirit traveled to Norway, I have encountered the Norse gods, and I know how important that was back in the day to the people. And the unfortunate part is Christianity has really pushed that down. It's really suppressed that to the point now where today most Norwegians are completely disconnected
Hmm.
from that lineage of which they come from. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I love going to church sometimes, like Catholic church,
Mhm.
and then it's like these people are just saying the most beautiful songs. They're singing like the lyrics, and I'm like, what? You guys not realizing what you're saying? Like, and then they like go drink the blood of Christ and all of this stuff,
Right,
and they're all just like doing it. And I'm like, dude, this is like crazy. You guys are, this is really cool stuff.
right, right. I have a friend who's a medicine man, and he always says, yeah, if I'd only known a shot of wine and a biscuit was going to get me out of trouble. And it cracks me up. And no disrespect to Catholics out there. I have a great respect for all religions, but I prescribe to none, because I talk to people from all over the world. I have clients of all faiths who come to me. And it is from that place of neutrality, staying in the middle, not prescribing to this side or that side, that I'm able to do the work that I do. I am not in judgment when I talk to people. And
Mm,
I have heard, I
wow.
say, knock on wood, I've heard everything you can imagine that clients have come to me with that have happened to them. And I respect everyone's story. Everybody has a story. But
Hmm.
whether everyone is ready and willing to heal is another matter. Many people have such resistance to letting go of the attachment to the story. Well, back in
Right.
1979, this happened to me, and blah, blah, blah. And it's a story that they'll repeat over and over and over. And here we are in 2024. They're still telling the story of what happened in 1979. And that attachment level, and I see this with illness and disease, people wear it like a badge. Oh, I had this. And we keep ourselves stuck. We aren't releasing and letting go. We're building that matrix around us even more so that we can then identify, and that vibration of the matrix is what comes to us. That's what we're manifesting. So, let's say a person's angry and resentful that they didn't get that job back in 1982 and it ruined their career. And that's what their big is. That's what they're manifesting. They're manifesting people who don't want them. They're manifesting jobs that let them go. They're manifesting people who are angry and resentful back at them. It's just a giant mirror. We live in a disco ball.
Exactly. And it's the both so beautiful and so sad at the same time to admit to yourself, like, wait, you mean that the reason why all of these bad things are happening to me is because of me?
Mhm.
Like that is
Mhm.
so sad to understand
Well, it's
that,
hard
yeah,
for people to
hard.
understand. It's
Right.
hard for people to take responsibility because since humans have existed on Earth, we have had two templates that we live by. One is the victim and one is the perpetrator, otherwise known as the bully. So we've got victim or perpetrator, and that's how people tend to split and divide just like a cell. Okay, I'm the victim. This happened to me. Poor me. Oh, I'm the bully. I'm mad at you that you did this and I'm going to make your life stink because of it. It's like we
Yeah.
take on these two roles, and that's where we're at in this phase of humanity. As it comes to close, we either wake up and get that we are responsible for what we're creating, or we
Mm.
you know we come back around and we do it all again. But our people on earth right now, excuse me, our people on earth right now are not going to come back again. It's the babies, the little kids who are incarnating. They're like we were at the end of Atlantis, and they are the ones that will herald the next phase of humanity. So they're here checking it out. They're all star seeds. And they're here like we were at the end of Atlantis going, do I really want to do this? Boy, I feel really jazzed being here. Yeah, I think I will. And the rest of us are going to go back. First, we'll go to heaven when we die, and then
Mm.
we'll go back to our home planets where we all came from. And we are all from different
Oh.
places in the galaxy and beyond. We're all from different places.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
Wow.
I know. I'm looking at where you came from. You
Wow.
came from the constellation known as Pegasus. There's a
Whoa.
there's a planet in Pegasus where that's your home planet. Hmm.
Wow. So maybe I want to ask, like, are there other planets like the Earth with human beings who are also not developed and going through the same
Tons,
thing? Tons.
tons,
Yeah.
tons. And our egos have so insulated us in believing that we're the only ones,
Yeah.
that we're
Right.
oh so special and it must only be humans. Aliens can't possibly exist. And as all 4-year-olds who come face to face with that clown in a amusement park, that's going to be humans coming face to face with aliens going, oh my God, because we're not embodying the adults that we are. We're so emotionally wounded that we
Mm.
constantly go back into the inner child and put the inner child up front, and we make him
Mm.
or her drive the car because we are wounded and we can't figure out how to get out of that. It's the
Mm.
cycle keeps going throughout our lives, and we have to care for that child. We have to love the child and parent the child now. And that way we start to heal our wounds, and we, the adults, can drive the car and be the ones who are navigating what we're creating. Yay!
I love this quote. My friend Noah Lampert came up with it, and he said, we are all conducting the song that will wake us up, like the alarm clock, and we are just
Yeah,
like conducting it in an orchestra. That is our
yeah,
life.
yeah. And I always tell my clients, you are your greatest mystery. You're here to solve that mystery.
Yeah.
So when I take people into deep processing work and they're sitting there holding themselves as a newborn baby, and I ask them, how does the baby feel? And they can't get that information because they're so blocked with the wounding of whatever that baby is holding. It's like, okay, you're the greatest mystery. That baby has all of your history. That baby knows everything that happened to you. So let's get your mind out of the way. Let's drop you down into your belly and let's get
Mm-hmm.
at this information because it will change your life.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a work that needs to be done internally. Like sometimes it feels like
Mm.
changing things externally like
Mhm.
doesn't do anything. It's like it's things that you can't really see that do the
It's such an
differences.
inside job. It's such an
Right.
inside job. It really is. I mean, the best example I have are, Tibetan monks who
Hmm.
enter the temple at, 10 years old and they sit in meditation for their whole life.
Yes.
And we all look at it and admire it and say, wow, I don't know how they do that, because we're out, getting on a train and going on a trip and, coming here and
Right.
going there. And yet those guys are experiencing everything because when we go into meditation
Yeah.
and we quiet ourselves to such a point that we understand we are nothing, we are nothing. When you ask me, who are you, Sonja? I am nothing because I know in that nothingness, out of it, I will experience everything,
Wow.
everything.
Yeah.
And again, no offense to humanity, but we don't know unless we have a meditation practice how to quiet our mind enough to get at everything. We're just going round and around in our own matrix, and we can't stop. You got to quiet that and then step out of the matrix to experience everything. But this takes practice. That's why I teach this. That's why I am, in the position I'm in, and I help people
Yeah.
to learn how to do this. But it takes, in my humble opinion, a teacher. It takes a practice. We're so into an instant society right now, instant oatmeal, instant coffee, instant gratification, instant selfie, instant social media. We are losing the thread of what it means to practice something. And I applaud people
Hmm.
who are musicians, who understand practice and the length of time it takes to master an instrument, or a dancer or someone in the
Yes.
arts. We're losing it. And I want people to get that back.
Hmm. Yeah, like no shortcuts, right? We're
Right.
in for the long haul.
Right. And that's the thing about our karma. Our karma, or unresolved emotional wounds, is a lifetime process. It's something that we will spend our
Mm.
entire life working on. I had a woman, she's a client of mine. She has been going to therapists for 30 years, and she's dealt with her weight and weight issues. And I did one session with her, and we're doing more. We've been doing more work. But I did one session with her and discovered what happened to her in the womb that is causing this cycle of food addiction. And it blew her mind. She said, I have learned more from you in one session than I did in 30 years of therapy. And it's like, yeah, you know we have to get at that deeper stuff. We can talk about this all day long. We can talk about it and shake it like a rug and talk about it again, but unless you get at the deeper stuff, you're not getting at the pattern of what needs to be healed. You know?
Yes. Yes. One thing that I like to do, and I wonder how you feel about this, is this exercise that is like how far can I kind of extricate my awareness or consciousness from this physical reality to the point where just like the way my heart beats and I breathe, I'm talking and I'm doing everything, but my true self is in the back just watching it all unfold. How do you
Mhm.
feel about that
This is
concept?
who you were on Atlantis, and I mean this with all my heart. That question embodies you as a mathematician, as a scientist, and who you have been and who you are now. So you're right on track. And I mean that with every ounce of my being. You're on track. And I would say the best way to become the observer of your experience
Mm,
is through a meditation practice, is learning to
right.
ground yourself. My meditation of grounding is really making people aware that each chakra or energy center is emitting some kind of energy. And when we ground those centers, we are then connecting to the earth,
Mm,
the goddess. We're receiving energy from the earth, which is we're naturally supposed to do, and we're not blasting other people with energy that might be inappropriate. Second chakra energy, yeah, that can be really inappropriate. You
mm.
get blasted by somebody and go, "Whoa, what was that?" Third chakra energy, you walk into a meeting, everybody's mad at you, and you get blasted from their power center, and you're like, "Whoa, what happened?"
Yeah.
As a species, again, victim, perpetrator, when we take responsibility for what we're doing, we take responsibility for our energy and where it's going. And I can't say that enough.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love the practice of meditation because all I do for my meditation, I label my thoughts and I go back to my breathing. I just focus on my breathing. And the way that has helped me is whenever like thoughts come up, instead of just automatically grabbing at them, I'll be like, oh, it's just a thought. Like I'll still use it maybe, but that I'm not identified with it anymore. I'm looking at it like, oh, it's a thought, just like my meditation. These are always happening.
No
But
problem.
yeah, separation of thoughts and
Yes,
awareness.
and breathing and meditation is very important. I really want to invite you, and I'll send you an invite link to experience the Meditation Peace Project, so
Yes,
you can have that experience. Okay, I'll send you an invite.
thank you. And that will
Mhm.
be in the description of the podcast as well. If anybody else wants to join us.
Yeah, and I would love for your listeners to check out my new podcast, Sonja Grace's Spirit Traveler. It is based on my book, Spirit Traveler, and I've got the second book written and ready for a publisher, and it's super cool. I made a documentary short called Spirit Traveler, looking into the past for a better future, and it's won a best documentary at the Sci-Fi Film Festival in Los Angeles.
It's I think I saw that. Is Graham Hancock in that?
No, no,
No, okay, that's like a different
that's a
episode or
different
something.
one. Yeah, that's different. That
Gotcha.
you probably saw that on
On
Ancient
Gaia.
Civilizations on Gaia TV, because we're both
Right.
on that. Yeah,
Ah, okay, okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And people can find me on Gaia TV. I'm on a bunch of different shows there, but definitely check out the new podcast because it's very good.
Yeah, and hopefully I can make my way on that podcast sometime soon.
Yes, you
So
will. I'll have you on. Absolutely. I'd love to have you on.
thank you,
My,
Sonia.
my
It
fellow
was
Atlantean.
it was a ultimate pleasure having you on the podcast, Sonia. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much again for
Thank
doing this.
you.
And we'll stay in touch.
Okay, we'll
Um,
be in touch, and people can find me at sonjagrace.com, Sonja, sonjagrace.com.
and that'll be in
Okay,
the description of the podcast.
okay. Thank you. Great to talk to
Thank
you.
you, Sonia. You too. Have a good
Okay,
day. Hare
okay, you
Krishna.
too. Bye-bye.
Yeah.